Good afternoon. Let me just make sure. Okay, looks like I am live. So good afternoon. Carol Buckalew with Inky Bee Stampers. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And if you're joining, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. So I have been sharing a lot of Christmas cards from new products that will be available on September 6th from the upcoming mini catalog. And I thought maybe I'd share something other than Christmas with you today, because I have been doing a lot of Christmas cards and some fall cards and whatnot. Hi, Faith. Thanks so much for joining. So today I have a card that I created using the Earthen Textures bundle, stamps and dies, and then the Earthen Elegance 12 by 12 designer series paper, which is gorgeous paper. And because I'm a fall person, these colors just speak to me. I love these fall colors and the darker colors of fall. But anyway, so really, simple card today. I did do some stamping and, kind of pre-die cutting. But anyway, yeah, this is our card for today. So lots of paper on here, the designer series paper. Hi, Mary. Thanks so much for joining. Thank you. So these are the products. This is the Earthen Textures stamp set and the dies. And I didn't use everything in the stamp set or dies, but we'll see what's... And then I use these. I love these. These are the Adhesive Back Sequence Trio. And... I'm not sure if that's bubble bath or not, but this is definitely pretty peacock, and then some white sequins. And I just love these. They're so pretty on a card. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do some kind of, let me get all my pieces out here. I'm going to do some pre-stamping on our envelope. And for the inside of the card, I am going to be using a piece of the DSP. And I believe this is, let me see here. I believe this is like a gray granite kind of speckled print, if I had to guess. I see some gray in there. So that is one of the colors in the pack. And I'm going to be using this for my inside panel instead of cardstock. And that is our card base. I'm just trying to get my pieces sorted here and find all of my little pieces I need to stamp on. There we go. Okay. So let me go ahead and stamp the sentiment. And the sentiment on the front of the card just simply says, thank you. And I'm going to be stamping the sentiment off to the left because we're going to be putting some foliage on, kind of overlapping the sentiment label. And we're going to be putting that kind of on the right side. So let me just make sure. Hopefully I won't work it up here. I need to pull this to me just a little bit. And let's see if I can get this stamped kind of centered and straight. See how I do. Whew. Good, because I didn't cut a second, I didn't cut a second sentiment label. So that worked out. That's good. Okay. And then on a piece of Lost Lagoon cardstock, I'm going to stamp the small urn. And this has, I really like the detail in this small urn. It's very pretty when it stamps. There we go. Yeah, I like the sentiments too. I like the font and I like the sentiments. I think this is good. Yeah, we're good with the pretty peacock ink. I can put this away. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring out, I just wanted you to see the stamped urn. I've already stamped it and die cut it ahead of time. But it just has so much texture in it. It's just really beautiful when you cut it. And then the next thing we're going to stamp here is our inside sentiment. And the inside sentiment is with gratitude. Whoops, I do need pretty peacock still. Let me get that back out. You should have seen me yesterday. I had this ink. Oh, and that is not our inside sentiment. Yeah, that wouldn't work too good. I had Pretty Peacock ink all over me, and I didn't touch the stamp pad. What happened was that I wiped a stamp off, and I think that the ink kind of stayed in the cloth I was using to clean the stamp off with. Yeah, and I had pretty much ink all over my hands. All right, hopefully we'll get this straight. Okay, that's perfect. All right, great. Now I can put Pretty Peacock away. All right. I like to use the DSP when I can also, Mary. Sometimes I like to use it as a mat if it's a small enough print to show, you know, underneath the cardstock. But I like using it for the inside panels as well. All right, I've got this little small kind of twiggy greenery branch here, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on our inside panel as well. And also the envelope flap. And you know, when you use these heavier stamping blocks, just be aware, it's very easy to jam. Because the block has weight to it, it's very easy to jam your stamps down into the ink, maybe more than you should. Just an FYI. All right. You know, I just noticed, well, yeah, let me fix this. Let me clean this off. My, the stem on my little greenery thing here is crooked for some reason. I'm not sure why, but let me clean that off. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's definitely crooked. Get it a little straighter there, all right? And I want to blot that to make sure that it's dry. If not, it will make my ink run. So let me just make sure that that's dry. Okay, now we can ink it up again. Got the stem straight, we're all good. And I'm just going to stamp this 2 times here on the corner of my card. And I actually don't need to ink that all the way down, and just kind of right there. And that'll be good for our inside panel. And let me go ahead and stamp. Hey, Akiko, thanks so much for joining. Akiko, I promise I won't say hello 3 times this week. I couldn't believe I did that. You know, you get to talking and you can't remember. And, oh, I was a mess last week. So I debated about whether going with white or Very Vanilla for the envelope, and I opted for Very Vanilla. I like it. You know, it's a warm tone, and we're kind of using some warm tones here on this card. So I opted with the Very Vanilla. And there we go. That is good enough for our envelope. And like I mentioned, I pre-stamped this twig and the urn already. And let me just, don't want to lose my envelope thing there. Okay. We can go ahead and start assembling our card. Very easy, simple card today. You know what? Let me go ahead and get the inside panel in. And when I usually use glue to put my inside panels in cards. But because this is DSP, if you put glue on here, chances are that the paper is going to buckle slightly underneath if you get too much glue applied. I'm going to give Stampin' Seal a try here. I'm not a big Stampin' Seal girl. I do use it. I like to use Stampin' Seal to put ribbon down and that kind of thing. But let me see how successful I am in using Stampin' Seal to put my panel on the inside of the card. So hold your breath, guys. And let's see if I can get it lined up without it sticking prematurely here on me. I think I did okay. Phew. So when you're using DSP on the inside for your sentiment, you know, DSP is thinner than cardstock. So the Stampin' Seal won't leave any ridges of glue around the perimeter. So just kind of a hint there for you. But now I'm going to my glue. That's like my favorite thing of all time. I love using liquid glue. And I have a mat here. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, it's always kind of hit or miss for me getting those panels straight using Stampin' Seal. That's why I like the glue so much. Now look what I just did. Instead of putting the glue on my sentiment, I put it on the mat, but that's okay. I did okay. I don't think I made too much of a mess there. You know, but there's, I like the wiggle room that the glue gives me. And so it's always hit or miss if using Stampin' Seal, whether or not I'm going to get that panel down. And I know there's a technique if you put the panel down with Stampin' Seal and it's crooked or something. I know there's a way to, like, you know, you kind of pull it up from the side and try again, but I'd rather not have to do that if I can help it. Definitely prefer my liquid glue here. All right, go ahead and get that on and just make sure it's even. But yeah, see what I mean? Just, I needed to wiggle that just slightly and it's good now. All right, and then I have hey Karen, thanks so much for joining. I have a small piece of designer series paper here from the Earthen Elegance, which is kind of a wood grain pattern. And then I have a mat in pecan pie. We have 2 pie inks now. I hadn't thought about that before. So I'm going to go ahead and mat this up. But I had a lot of fun using all these different, DSP patterns in this set. They're just so pretty. But again, if you like fall like I do, you know, you kind of can't help but love them. Straighten that up just a tad. Okay. It's kind of hard to see the pecan pie mat, but it does show up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I have a 1/2-inch strip of DSP, and this is in Pretty Peacock, and I'm just going to adhere this strip along this panel here, just so that I have about maybe a 1/16 of an inch showing. It just provides enough pop of color on this panel, and I really like the look of it. So see if I can see how coordinated I am here. Trying to work from the back. Again, glue lets you have that little bit of wiggle room. And I'm just trying to make sure that's straight. And that looks pretty good to me. Alrighty. And then this panel is going to go down on the left-hand side. And it is going to be flush with the left edge of this larger DSP panel. So let me get that adhered. I missed what you said, Faith, about vanilla. You use very vanilla for fall or Christmas. Yeah, I know, me too, I do too. It just seems more like a fall-like color. And I'm just gonna go ahead and line this panel right up to the edge of that DSP that I put down previously. And if I can scoot it up just a smidge in there. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna take the side, kind of the dull edge of my tweezers here. I got just a smidgen of glue here on the edge of that Pretty Peacock DSP. And I find that if I use the side of my tweezers, it helps, but it's not getting it this time. That's okay. I can get my rubber eraser. All right, we can go ahead and adhere our sentiment label, and I'm going to put this not quite center, just a smidgen above, but I am going to center the sentiment label from left to right. So let me get some Stampin' Dimensionals. So I was watching storm coverage this morning from Hurricane Idalia, and it ended up being, I think, a Category 3 storm when it came on shore, and it hit kind of the panhandle right there where the panhandle turns on Florida. And those poor people, they I think they were getting clobbered by the storm. And I think Perry, Florida got the worst of it. Cat 3, yeah, Mary. But I was watching Ryan Hall on YouTube. He does great coverage, him and his team. And then it looked like some tornadoes were popping up in Atlanta, kind of the east side of, not Atlanta, the east side of Georgia and South Carolina as well. And let me just pull this to me and get my sentiment label down. And try to, this DSP kind of has the wood grain, and it kind of has a straight line. That's helpful. Let me see if I got that straight. I think I did. Let me see. Yeah, I got it. I think I got it placed okay. And then here are my little urns. I cut one of the small urns from, again, another piece of the Designer Series paper. I'm calling these urn toppers. I don't know what they're technically called, but again, this is from Designer Series paper. And then I cut 3 of my kind of twiggy branches here, for a lack of a better word for those. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my little toppers here on top of my urns. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue these urns together. It's just easier that way, I think, to handles. They are handles. I was calling them urn toppers. I don't know what to call them. But I'm going to glue these together just because it's kind of easier to treat them as one piece. And I'm just making sure I got it straight there. I think I've got it fairly straight. Oh. There we go. Okay. Hey, Sharon, thanks so much for joining. You're not late. Not at all. That's the great thing about video. Oh, thank you. And we'll get this little, we'll get the handles put on top of this small urn. There we go. And I want kind of my fancy urn, right? the one in the brown kind of print. I want to glue it to this other urn right about there, and I want to make sure. Okay, I can see that this sentiment label is sitting too low. And so I learned this trick from one of my team leaders, Amy Kunders. And if you slip your scissors right underneath your sentiment label, you are able to easily snip those Stampin' Dimensionals. And then I'm just going to take my thumb and roll the remains of those Stampin' Dimensionals off of my paper. But I thought this was like the absolute best trick. If you need to lift something up and move it, and you've put it down with Stampin' Dimensionals, just slip your scissors inside underneath that label, between the label and the paper, and just snip them, and definitely makes quick work of, you know, of correcting, correcting the position of whatever it is you put down. So we'll try this one more time. I just had it. Now that I probably should have, whoops, use that kind of as a guide for where I need to put my sentiment label. That would have been helpful if I'd done that the first time around, but that's okay. Yeah, I thought that was the best tip I've ever seen, seriously. So I want this right about here. And again, I want to center it left to right and try to get it straight on there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now I can go ahead and glue my urns together. And I'm just going to put a thin bit of glue here down on the part of the right side of this pretty peacock urn. And then go ahead and lay my other urn kind of on top. And we want them to, you know, I want these tops to be straight with each other. And that looks good. And then our urns are going to sit right like that. And it still looks like this is a bit too low, but I'm not going to take it up again. It won't matter that much. but the urns are going to kind of sit right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take some more dimensionals. And let me see here. So this one, I just am looking for kind of where I can put these dimensionals, because I am going to tuck my twigs on the inside here. So I want to make sure that I leave some room for that. Yeah, so hopefully, you know, there hasn't been any loss of life in Florida, you know, due to the hurricane. It's always I can't even imagine the feeling for those poor people that are going through this. You know, what it must be like having to deal with all of that. All right, I'm going to go ahead. So I've got kind of my little stems here going over the right side of the sentiment label and then hanging off the top of the sentiment label. I can go ahead and just trim down. Oops. I know I didn't glue that down. So let me just double check that. So that one's going to fit, and let me fit this one. And that one's sitting a little bit lower. I can trim that one, I think, right about there. And let's slip that one and make sure it'll fit. Okay, that looks good. Go ahead and get a little bit of glue here on just kind of the bottoms of the twigs. My glue dried up on me. Come on, glue. Well, it really did dry up on me. That's what happens when you leave the lid off too long. It really doesn't. There it goes. See, I got too much. I knew that was going to happen. Let me just get a scrap here of something and get some of that up. I don't need that much. There we go. And just a little bit here on the stem. Like that. Need to lift my top of my urn up there. And we're going to slide that one right about there. That looks good. And we can go ahead and get this one on. Come on. And this one's going to sit just a little bit lower. And I am going to support these, but not until I add this one. So this one is actually going to sit in the back. So I'm going to completely cut the stem off of that one, and just add a little bit of glue onto the back. And this one is going to get tucked right down in there. And these tweezers are also helpful to get underneath stuff and kind of smush it down and make sure the glue is sticking. Okay, I think that looks good. Can go ahead and put a couple of the Pretty Peacock sequins here. And we can just kind of place those around our twigs here. Oops, come on. And let's put one up there. There we go. Okay, got that done. We're almost done. So I told you it was an easy card. Go ahead, and I've got a coordinating piece of DSP for the envelope. Oh, hey, Tara, thanks so much for joining. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I just love this set. I haven't used it enough either, and I don't know why, because I love the paper. I love the colors. Tara, you might have recently made a card with this set, and that's what kind of jogged my memory. Like, yeah, I need to use this. And I think it was you, Tara, and it was a beautiful card that you made. All right. Go ahead and get this lined up. So this, the measurements and instructions for this card will be on my blog tomorrow. This card is for the Happy Inkin' Thursday blog hop. We have a sketch challenge this week, so that's what I designed this card for. But you can get all the instructions on my site tomorrow. Hey, guys, tomorrow is the last day that you'll be able to redeem your bonus day coupons. If you earned any bonus day coupons in the month of July, tomorrow is the last day to redeem those coupons. So don't, if you've got coupons, you would have received them by email, don't forget to use them. You know, you don't want that $5 to go to waste. Also tomorrow is the last day of the kits sale. That applies to kits in the kits collection, up to 30% off on kits. And that sale ends tomorrow as well. So if you like kits, you're a busy person or a new crafter, you know, be sure to check that out. What else? I haven't put it on my blog yet, but Stampin' Up! Just announced that they're going to be releasing, in addition to the mini catalog on September 6th, so that's coming up quickly, they also are going to be releasing a collection of papers. And there's some holiday papers in there, and there's some kind of everyday papers, and they are beautiful papers. I've got them on my list to order. But those papers will be available on September 6th as well. And I will have that information on my blog most likely by Friday. So, you know, keep an eye out for that. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Here's our masculine thank you card. But, you know, it doesn't have to be a masculine card. Change up the sentiments. This would make a great birthday card, celebration card. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I want to thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.